teachers, the teachers, the teachers, the teachers.
My brothers and sisters of color, we gotta do better. No survival in this era if we turning on each other. Like a family reunited, they hate it when we together. Now let's talk about it. Listen to the teachers, let them tell you. You want facts behind your questions, Dr. Rick, give them the answer. Followed by wise words, introducing Dr. Michael Blanchard. Many guests and activists every week leading by example. When there's problems, there's solutions. Together we are the answer.
The teachers.
Hey everybody, Dr. Rick here, dropping in with my ace, Dr. Michael Blanchard, and together we are the Teachers. We have a very interesting episode of the Teachers today. We have with us Callie Nelms. I'm going to allow Dr. Blanchard to introduce this phenomenal young lady and let you know what we're going to be talking about and discussing, and I think it's going to be a phenomenal episode. So Doc, take it from here.
Yeah, so I'm going to read briefly her bio and then we'll get into it. So good morning, Kaylee. I'm glad you could join us this morning for an interesting discussion about how millennials are changing the workplace and what we call work today. But briefly, Kaylee Nelms is the definition of a go-getter. From a very young age, she set two goals that many thought was nothing more than a fantasy. One is being an Olympian, and the other is being financially free. At the tender age of 27, she was able to do both of those things, and now spends her time helping others reach their dreams. Kaylee has a master's degree in leadership that helps her develop millennials to become the person that they aspire to be. Kaylee was a veteran teacher that walked away from teaching due to COVID and the inhumane work conditions with no plan. And Kaylee picked up a small at-home job making $17 an hour just to get by while she figured out what her next steps would be. After casually scrolling on TikTok, she found technical recruiting. And she spent the first 3 months of 2022 gaining the knowledge she could use, ultimately putting herself in a position of power and a six-figure salary. Good morning again, Kaylee Nelms.
Good morning.
So you are a very interesting millennial because most millennials are not doing what you're doing. And what I mean by that, you basically did a lot of self-teaching. You were a teacher. I mean, you could have stopped right there. You have your master's degree. You could have went on in the teaching profession and, you know, you're married, you have children, you know, you have the ideal life. You could have just stopped right there. But you said, no, I don't want that. You know, Doc and I come from Generation X, where our parents taught us get a job or get 12 jobs, you know, and you know, exactly, or get 12 jobs. And you know, we come from that generation where we brag about how many jobs we have, right? Mm-hmm. And how many hours we work. But I think millennials have pushed back. And you and I had this conversation when I first met you, that, you know, I was intrigued about you because you were a millennial, and there are more millennials like you that are pushing back against traditional work. And you're saying, you know, we're not buying into the the civil rights generation and the Generation X, in that you work yourself to death, you have no quality of life, you don't have time to really enjoy life. And as I get closer to retirement, I look back on my life, I've spent a lot of my life simply working, and I've missed out on a lot of things with my children. And so I'm envious of you because you're doing both. You know, you decided to say, hey, I'm not going this route. You know, I'm going to, you know, do self-study. Even though you have a master's, you basically self-studied and put yourself in that position for what we call remote work and that type. So I'm going to shut up and just tell us a little bit about your story and how you got to where you are now. You're over six figures. You're an IT technical recruiter, and we'll get into that because we may have people that are listening right now who may be able to use your services. You're a recruiter, so you may be able to get some people from our show that are looking for the same type of work that you do.
Well, thank you so much for the introduction. Yeah, I left teaching in 2020, and I just had my son, CJ Corey Jr., and they wanted me to go back into the classroom after having him 6 weeks because I wasn't with the county that I was with for a year, even though I was there and I left and I came back. That was a long story. But they were like, no, you don't have any maternity leave, so you need to come back after 6 weeks. In the middle of a pandemic, I lived an hour and a half away from my previous county, and they didn't have no plan, no mask. They just knew, okay, we needed you to come back into the classroom because we need bodies and parents want students to be back in. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. Because if I get sick and I pass away, all you guys are going to say, oh my gosh, Mr. Nelms, oh my gosh, David's family, we're so sorry. But the same night, you're going to list my job. So I fought back. I said no. So some way, somehow, I ended up getting 7 months of maternity leave paid for, I was so happy about that. I don't know how that happened, but it happened. And when I came back, I was still a little skeptical, but I'm one of those people that I'm going to voice my opinion, but I'm not really going to challenge authority either. So I got back into the classroom, and my mentor was actually my principal, which is a weird relationship. And I was like, this isn't right. These kids aren't wearing masks. We're not sanitizing how we're saying we're supposed to. We're not contact tracing. And I say, and I got COVID literally 5 days after working. After coming back into the building, me, my 6-month-old, my 3-year-old got COVID, and my husband didn't. And I was like, I quit. I had no plan. I didn't know how I was going to make money. I was like, okay, what am I going to do? So I was like, okay, let's just figure it out. So my husband told me, Kaylee, I got it, blah, blah, blah. Take your time. Take a year, take 2 years, take 3 years to figure it out. After about a year, and I was like, dang, I can't go shopping like I want to because we know what income. I was like, let me just get a little side job. So I got a little side job, something that, I was passionate about because I like helping people. I like, educating people, just doing things to better their life and lend advice any way that I can. So I was like, okay, let me go work for Aetna. I deal with what I like to call like those that are on Social Security. They deal with a lot of ageism, where people don't feel as if they should have certain things. For an example, if you're driving down the street and, an old person is going slow and you're like, see, that's why you don't need no license. That's ageism,
Right.
They experience this all the time. A lot of them don't even know how to book an appointment online, and they don't realize that everything is transitioning over to the cloud and to online work. And then when you have that generation that are scared, almost frightened of the computer, and they don't know how to work it, they're calling into us 3, 4, 5 times a day, asking them to do this, or asking us to book an appointment, asking us to change this, asking us to change that. And I enjoyed it, surprisingly, only making a little bit of money. And then after that, I had another son. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to be a stay-at-home mom. But I was scrolling to TikTok like most people do. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. That's my thing. I don't like just watching stuff just to watch it. I like to gain some type of knowledge from it. And I ended up scrolling on Diamond, the recruiter. And she got up in the morning. And again, this could all be fake, but you use what you put out there. She got up in the morning. She went to the gym. She got her hair done. She did a whole bunch of stuff, and then it was like 5 o'clock, and now she's logging into work. She didn't have to check in with nobody from the video. She didn't have to check in with nobody. She didn't have to do anything. And I was like, dang, what is this? So I took that little piece and I'm like, okay, she's a technical recruiter. Let me find out more information about this. I go on YouTube. I'm spending countless hours and hours on YouTube, just gaining knowledge, taking a marble notebook, writing down everything that I could. And ultimately, after 3 months, when it usually takes people about 2.5, 3 years to break into tech, it took me 3 months to break into tech with multiple offers over $100,000. I was actually able to negotiate, which was really good. I actually turned down a higher paying job, which was in 45,000 that I turned down with one of the FANG companies, just because right now work-life balance is so important to me. I don't want to make $145,000 if I'm going to be spending all day and my weekends just to make that money. Because if you do the math ain't math at all. Like, it's not math. So
Right. Man, that is fantastic. So you walked away from teaching.
yeah,
And
I was scared.
with no plan. And how did you do that? I mean, you obviously have a drive. And you and I talked about this.
Mhm.
When you do peer mentoring, are your peers as driven as you are about what you do? Because like you said, you've accomplished at 27, 28 what people my age haven't even accomplished, you know, where you actually have, you're not just making the money. A lot of people, you know, people can make the money, but like you said, if you're working, 16 hours a day and weekends too to get it, what kind of quality of life do you have? So are your peers as driven as you? When you do your peer mentoring, people, I'm sure people come to you and say, hey, I want to do what you're doing.
Yeah, I hate that.
But do they have the same drive and commitment to get
Right.
where you got?
Honestly, one thing I can say, which is I don't use the word hate a lot, but I hate when people come to me and it's like, oh, I want to do what you do. You don't even know what I do. Like, you want to break into tech, but you don't know what I do. So it's like, what do you mean? But a lot of them are not driven by passion. And I think that's what makes my story a little bit different. Mine is driven by something that I already like to do. Like I said, I took a job making $17 an hour with a master's degree to help people because that's what I like to do. So I'm ultimately doing the same thing, helping people, change their life for the better. I mean, I could just say I closed a $300,000 deal for an architect on Friday. And that ultimately changed this man's life. I sat with someone on a call where he was literally taking an interview in his car. He was homeless and he needed to get the job. So to know that I closed that deal and I know that he's going to have a place to stay, he's going to have a home now, like that's big. So that's why I said for me, it's not just about the money. The money is great. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm not going to sit here and say I don't like my paychecks when they come in. But at the same time, I have a passion backed up behind it. So like I even posted on my Instagram yesterday, I didn't even realize it was Friday. Like I know some teachers or people in other professions, they're like, oh my gosh, is it Friday? Oh my gosh, is it payday? Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And it's like, if I have to do all of that just to get to Friday and spend 2 days over the weekend recouping from the whole week, I'm in the wrong job. Like I'm now like, okay, dang, it's Friday. I got so much.
Haley, you're hurting my feelings. You're talking about my job. You're hurting my feelings. But go ahead, I'm listening.
But honestly, think about it. Like if you're really sitting here having to do that for so long, like, is it really worth it? Yeah. 1 second.
Yeah, man. I mean, what she's talking about is absolutely true. It's something that, I've been talking and teaching for years. She talked about the grind work week that Generation Xers and baby boomers take so much pride in, man, I put in 80 hours. I put in 80 hours a week.
Sorry.
Okay,
no problem.
we come from a generation and the generation before us where it was a badge of honor to put in 80 plus hours a week.
That's crazy.
It said something. And so when I'm talking, I'm teaching, I'm lecturing, and what I do, and Kayla, I'm not sure how much Doc told you about me, but I literally am a cross between a psychotherapist and a life coach. Somewhere in there is, I call it life strategy, but I have two ends of the spectrum. I have clients who are high performers who are looking to take their careers and their lives to another level. And then I have people who are dealing with trauma. And so I specialize in both of those areas, performance psychology and trauma healing. But when I'm telling people, I say, I often ask a question when I'm lecturing about what you're talking about is, do you know when the largest percentage of people who have their first heart attack have it? It's on Monday morning between the hours of 6 a.m. and noon. You know why? They're going back to that stressful job and they know they got 5 whole days in that environment where they don't like the people, they don't like the work, they're not happy with the pay. They're literally committing spiritual suicide and they're slowly killing themselves physically. And they don't realize it. But that's what they taught they were taught they had to do. So that's the only option for them. You get up, you go put in the work, you do whatever you're told, and you take that check and you go do what you're supposed to with it. And the thing is, the people who are really winning in the world aren't doing that.
Right.
And even before the millennials, you got everybody, and I look at people, and I've watched millionaires tell aspiring millionaires, you got to grind.
Yep.
And
that's not necessarily true, though.
Right. Well, first of all, there's not enough hours in the day. The moment that you're being paid by the hours you work, you still an employee, even if you own the company. If you're getting paid by the hour, you're still an employee. You have arrived when you've learned how to leverage the money that you're earning, so that money makes more money than you're earning. So the work you're doing it because you love. You love it. You're passionate about it. It's what you do. And what happens is, I had an old man tell me this. It's a real common saying, but I had an old man tell me this before I ever entered the workforce. He said, when you wake up in the morning to go do something that you absolutely love to do, that you would literally do for free if you were wealthy, you're no longer working. You'll never work another day in your life. And that's the thing. You know me, Doc.
Yep.
I'm constantly going, but I'm going because it's my passion. I answer to nobody. If I decide to take a day off, I hit my clients up and say, hey, I'm taking off today. We'll have to reschedule. I don't do it a lot because I love what I'm doing. I really get a kick out of it. But the thing is, what we're seeing with people like Kaylee is they're embracing the idea that I don't want to work for 40 years to try to live after I've wasted my youth for 11 years before I die. I'm gonna work my butt off. I'm gonna retire at 65, die at 75,
right,
and never really have lived, because by the time I retire, my body ain't what it used to be. Yep. I can't go mountain climbing. I can't, all the things that you probably enjoy doing as a you can't because you're working.
Exactly.
And so the thing is, but here's the biggest thing, and then I'm gonna turn it back over to you guys. The biggest thing is, most of us are functioning from limiting beliefs about what we can do.
True.
Based off of the environments we grew up in.
True.
And so those limiting beliefs have created a glass ceiling that we never challenge. So the first thing she challenged in her glass ceiling was income. She loved something she was passionate about, and she said, so why do I have to believe that $60,000 or $70,000 is a lot of money? So what I'm going to do is I'm going for a minimum of 6 figures. So what's out there? Oh my God, she's out here doing it, and she ain't got to check in. If she decides she wants to take the day off, she just takes that. I'm gonna do what she does. So now I'm gonna go out and self-train.
Yeah,
I'm gonna become an autodidact in my field, and that means I don't have to apply and ask somebody for permission. I just inserted myself into a field that's constantly blocking people like me from coming in. That's power. that's the thing that I see when I say that's power. When you sit up and say, you know what, I'm not going to ask your permission. I'm just going to go do it. And that's what technology has done. It's funny she's doing it in tech because that's what technology has created. Technology has given. I tell people all the time, they come, well, you know, the white man, the racism. And I said, do you know I own 4 sites that nobody knows who I am on? People come to and spend money there. They don't know I own it. Now, my primary business, the one where I make the most income, yeah, everybody knows who I am because I'm the brand. But there's a way to get out there and get into a market now with technology where you can create whatever image you want to create. As long as you're providing a viable product and service that people see value in, there's nothing stopping you. You just got to know how to go out there and do it.
Let me tell you something. First of all, before I say what I was going to say, a resume is fake. Resumes are fake. So put whatever you want on your resume, please, because that's what everybody else is doing. That's what.
Oh yeah, gassing the hell out of resumes.
Right.
Listen, I was a teacher. My resume don't say I was a teacher though. But at the end of the day, I say all that to say, like, if you work, a lot of things that a lot of people don't understand though, because they've been in these jobs for so long. People stop learning. People stop doing the research. So then when you have someone like me coming in and I'm turning the company around in 2 weeks, people ask me, okay, well, how did you get a promotion in 2 weeks? How are you now? You took your stuff to the next level and you have no experience. Bro, those hours that I set up to 4 o'clock in the morning with a 3-month-old baby because I knew I was not going back, like, that's what happened. I kept that knowledge. I kept fine-tuning my skills. That's kind of one thing that they teach you in teaching, which I don't really agree on sometimes, is you become a teacher and you have to keep training every year, every 2 years, which it makes sense. It needs to be free. We don't have to pay for it. So if you're a teacher out there, find a way not to pay for it. It's many things out there for you. But that's kind of what I've done. And I don't feel as if it's smart to work 80 hours a week. Like, I could tell you one thing. When I went to, in 2012, I went to Barcelona, Spain, and I ran track for the United States. It was the World Junior Championship. And to see how the markets and everything, the whole city shut down from 11 to 2:30, you ain't getting no coffee, no lunch, no brunch, no nothing. They are on relaxation. Everybody checks out. They go deal with their family. They go to, eat wherever they are, but they're with their friends, family. In America, they're not shutting down for nothing.
It's about profit. It's profit driven. It's the most extreme form of capitalism. And the problem is that people don't realize how the public education system came into play. And because they don't understand the history of it, they get frustrated with it. See, they believe that the education system is about the empowerment of the students, and the education isn't. The education system is about the preparation of students to move into a workforce of corporate and industrial America to provide them with trainable people that they can plug into their machine, pay the minimal amount it takes to keep them, and get maximum results. What happened was in the 1800s, the industries came and said, hey, these people are illiterate. It's hard to train them because they're illiterate. They're showing up and it's hard to train them. We need a system. So they created the public education system. We're going to teach you math. That's what the arithmetic, English, and reading. Arithmetic, reading, and what's the other one?
Science, math.
Yeah. So you get in there. Those are the main ones. We want you to be able to add and count. We want you to be able to read. We want you to be trainable. And that's where it started. And if you notice that while you are required to go, it's not a guarantee that you can have it. It's not a right. Public education, free education isn't a right. It's provided because you are the predominant population for what we're going to plug into the system. So if you notice that we're starting to move to a privatization of education, we're moving from traditional public education to charter schools. Charter schools are taking the high performers out of public school. And what that's leaving is low performing schools that are being closed. And eventually they're going to funnel that
in dollars with them. Yeah.
Right. And so then they're eventually funnel that into to the privatization. So you're going to either have to be able to pay for school, get government grants or scholarships. And
But
that's going to be at the basic levels from kindergarten up.
yeah.
All right. So, and then, you know, what are we preparing for? We don't, because we are a people who predominantly trust the system. So we depend on the system to educate our children. And I think it was Brother Malcolm that told us 60 years ago, only a fool trusts his enemy to educate his children.
Say that one more time. Say it for the people in the back.
But you know what's interesting, Doc and Kaylee, is that the current educational system is not even conducive for educational reform. That's a big reason why I think, just listening to you talk about it, you had to get out, because you're the type of person that wants to reform things and make things better, and obviously also you want to be paid what's in commensurate with your talent and knowledge and experience. And of course, in education, that's not the case. Everything is a cookie cutter plan, from right down from the curriculum to the jobs to the everything with teachers is scripted. You don't have very much freedom or creative ability, and you're obviously a creative person. It's sad to see someone like you, with the intelligence and experience you have, you're leaving. The biggest and brightest are not going into education. When Doc and I were in college, we were in college in the 80s, 22% of all the confirmed degrees were in education. Now in 2022, that's down to 6%. So we're not even getting the best and brightest.
Well, let's just even think about it. And I wanted to build on what you guys are talking about as far as the public school system creating a future. But let's think about a different future that they're also going towards. People don't understand that they're using test scores, referrals, suspensions, all the negative things that come with education. They're using that to figure out how many jail cells do they need in 20 years. Yeah. How many more prisons do they need in 20 years? There's people literally in the backgrounds taking this data and saying, okay, well, little Bobby or little Tim or whoever it is, okay, with the path that he's going, he's probably going to end up in jail. We need to go ahead and account for him. People don't understand that. And people don't want to talk about that. It's ridiculous. And then another thing that kind of made me switch out of teaching is when I couldn't give zeros, I can only give 50%. Excuse me? If I give you a homework assignment and you tell me that, oh, well, I was playing football, so I couldn't do your homework assignment, you want me to give this child a 50? But yet, not even 10 years ago, if I told my teacher, because I had a teacher, he was at Boyd Anderson High School, and he almost failed me because we went to, I think it was regionals or states or something like that, and I couldn't finish my final assignment. And this was my junior year in college. And he was like, okay, well, if it's not done by the time you get back, or if I don't have it in my email, it's a 0. And I wasn't about to question him. Now it kind of shifts more to, you're working for the students. The students aren't working for you, or you're technically working for the students and the parents. I know a long time ago, if my parent or if my teacher called my mom, well, I know it was over. When I say over, like I was scared to come home. But now you call a parent, what you calling a parent for? Because the parent gonna curse you out, and then you sitting there looking stupid. You ain't cursing me out on a $40,000 salary. I'm sorry. Nope, I'm good.
And that I mean, she is hitting it on the head in so many different aspects all at once. When you talk about where we're at and how they are preparing kids, the whole idea is, if I take student athletes, even at the high school level, make money. What I found out, and we're talking about how we prepare, and we hear the term school to prison pipeline a lot, but we don't understand how it works. Well, one of the ways that it's set up is watch the special education pipeline.
Oh,
It's called Special Education Referrals, and I wrote an entire book on it, Doc. And I also wrote a position paper on the disproportionality of special education referrals when it comes to young Black boys specifically. Now, what happens is you take a 5-year-old, you put them in a classroom in a teaching population that is predominantly white female middle class. White female middle age. Two different cultures. She doesn't understand him, and she's afraid of him. He's 5, but she's literally afraid of him because that's the narrative. He's
but
dangerous.
she's not afraid of that football player.
Right.
That
Oh
she
no,
was
she's gonna sleep with him.
exactly.
In the 10th grade. She's gonna sleep with him in the 10th grade. But at 5 years old, she's looking at him, and then she's looking for a reason not to have to deal with him. So the first time that he doesn't come across on scale on anything, or if he doesn't sit still or he talks a lot, she's going to she's going to refer him for a special education evaluation. Now, what most parents don't realize is without their permission, it can't move forward. But here's the thing that most people don't understand. They're winning in so many different areas. First of all, the moment you refer a Black male to special education and he starts being treated different and handled differently, it starts to alienate him from the academic process. Second, so he's already starting to move towards dropping out because he doesn't fit. He doesn't feel comfortable. He doesn't feel like he belongs. They're not working with him to find out how he learns. They're trying to make him fit into the universal standardized system, the test scores and all the other bull crap. Second of all, they get double for a student on special education versus what the Nelms student gets. So if you're getting $8,000 a year for a traditional student, you're getting $16,000 a year. Here's the problem. The vast majority of high schools, for instance, their budget is handled by their principal. Guess where he's sending that money to? Athletics. New uniform, new cheerleader uniforms, improving the fields and the stadiums, all that stuff. Why? Because those concessions, even at the high school level, make the school more money. It brings the school more popularity. It produces. So again, the kid loses on every level. And then the 50% thing is if I don't turn an assignment in and I get a 0, that 0 is hard to overcome. If I don't turn an assignment in, I get a 50. I can offset that 50 if all I need is a 70 by getting a 90. But is that teaching good principles for life? You can't play life game like that. But if you watch our kids, watch the kids now. They're going to be either basically one or two places. They're going to be like Kaylee, hard-driven, revolutionized minds and doing things, or they're going to have a sense of entitlement. They're going to feel like you owe me something. You got to give me something. No, everybody's going to be a internet influencer, a social media influencer. Everybody is going to be the next Instagram supermodel. Nobody has got a plan.
Because that's hard work too. That's actually harder than what I do. You working every day, and it can go just like that. You can say the wrong thing. You can dress the wrong way. You can address different topics the wrong way, and it's over.
Man, all you got to do is have any one of them snatch your darn gone channel or your profile down, and you're starting from scratch again, trying to figure it out, or tick off your following by saying the wrong thing, and they'll cancel you at a heartbeat.
Absolutely.
But now, the thing is, social media in the right perspective offers so much power. We don't leverage it the way we should. We underuse it for one thing and overuse it for the other, and it's a problem. But I'm going to turn it back over to you guys. But like I said, what you were talking about there as far as the school to prison pipeline and how it's being set up, and we don't even realize it. We're turning our kids over to a system that's already measuring them for their jumper.
1 second, I do have 3 littles. 1 second, sorry.
No, it's okay. Do you?
So we have a comment here. America. Oh, it went off.
Oh yeah. I put that up. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying America as an institution has no concept of siesta, which makes this a failed nation. Renewal is key to prior. Oh, absolutely. But nobody ever gets a chance to renew because, we're in this grind we're in this grind motion, we're in the grind narrative, so we never get a chance to renew.
No, and there are some companies that are starting to understand the importance of catering to the needs of their employees.
Absolutely.
4-day work weeks, flexible work weeks, 2 days in the office.
Google is one of them. Google.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So what happens is you're starting to find out that morale is important to company production.
Yeah.
They're finding out working employees less.
Oh yeah.
And giving them more flexibility,
right,
actually produces more production.
Yeah.
And I mean, from a psychological and mental perspective, you can grind and work all day, but here's something I can tell you as a person who's an expert in the field, that there's this thing called decision fatigue or mental fatigue. Okay, I'll give you some examples. Mark Zuckerberg. I'm giving you examples not because I hold them in some regard, but because when I say their names, you'll immediately get an image of them. Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs, Tony Robbins. I'm trying to think about them. All of those people, when they show up publicly, they generally have on what? The same thing. Steve Jobs had on that same long sleeve black t-shirt, some jeans, and some loafers. Mark Zuckerberg's going to probably have on a gray t-shirt and probably some shorts. Tony Robbins is going to be in all black. Why is that? They learned a long time ago that you only have so many decisions before your mind starts to betray you, that you have this thing called decision fatigue. So they don't even waste their decisions on what they're going to wear.
Wow.
So I'm going to get up. I got 14 of these shirts in my closet. They all the same. I'm going to throw one on, throw some jeans on and go. Okay. So what does that mean? That's a decision I don't have to make. And they set that up, of course. Why? Because you get decision fatigue. And if you don't have a way to regenerate and replenish or restore over the day, your decision making gets worse. And so you got me working 14 hours, but the last 6 were trash.
Right.
I was tired. I was frustrated. I was thinking about what the hell those kids are doing at the house. I mean, all that stuff is starting to come into mind because I have a whole life, but I'm spending it here, but my life is still going.
Say that one more time.
And so now I'm stressed out. Mm-hmm. I'm at a job that I'm stressed out about. They're paying me pennies on the dollar, especially when you start averaging by the hour.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And now, so what happens is they're starting to learn that, hey, we need to give them a break. We need to give them some flexible time off. We need to do, and a lot of that's going on. Google has a whole little place where you can go and just unplug,
right?
And do whatever. And that's an environment. But the beautiful thing about this thing, as Kelly has shown, is you don't have to wait for a company to do that for you. You can do it for yourself.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, with millennials changing the workforce, we're already seeing millennials changing the way in which we educate students as well. More so with higher education. But I'm hoping that, with them changing the workplace environment, I'm hoping that millennials also are able to influence K through 12 education as well, because K through 12 education, it needs major reform. As you said, most of the teachers are your age and my age, and they're mostly white females. And you'd be hard pressed to find a black male teacher or administrator in a lot of school systems. So I'm hoping that changes, because we're already seeing it. Kaylee, you and I were discussing, you started your doctorate, right?
Yes.
You and I had this discussion because Doc, I've dubbed her the queen of self-taught. So what did you tell me when I said you should go back and get your doctorate? What did you tell me?
No.
Explain to our viewers why you said that and how, millennials like you are kind of torn between the value of a self-taught education opposed to a degree. Because a lot of students are saying, I talk to a lot of millennials and they say, hey, I don't want to go to college because I don't want to be $100,000 in debt. I just had two of my oldest daughters that graduated from Indiana University recently. One in 2021, the other one in 2018. Right. When I was at Indiana University back in the 80s, and Doc, you were at what, University of Houston, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how much Houston was, but Indiana University was $5,000 a year. That included tuition, room and board, everything. Today, Indiana University is $35,000 a year, and that's a public institution. So students are saying, no, I'm not going to get a 4-year degree and be $100,000 in debt with no return on my investment and no guarantee of a financial future.
So my thoughts on that. So again, I want to quickly say I had to bring the baby because I am family first. I tell everybody that. That's one thing that I said in my interviews. Listen, if my kid is crying, I'm gonna get.
I love the optics.
Like,
yeah. I love it. And my grandson would raid my. The reason I'm in the office now is my grandson was raiding my darn sessions with my clients on a regular basis. I'm on an interview on a national thing with a show. He just pops in my lap, and now the crazy thing is, I'm giving a lecture about, and this is about parents with children and issues and problems, and I'm talking about patience, how important it is to have patience. So he comes and jumps on my lap and takes over the conversation, right? He's 3. He takes over the conversation, and he's talking and and I'm just still doing my thing, and and I'm going and he's going, and I didn't say one thing to him the whole time. I let him do him, and I did me. And when we finished, and I have to say we because he was with me, when we finished, the first question that came in, the person says, "It's amazing that you talk about patience, but then we get to see you exude it." Well, hey, this is my family. This is my ace. This is my dude. We roll tight like that. So he's used to me. I've come home from work, and he's in my home office, and he's sitting at the desk, and he's pecking on the
emails.
He's doing keyboards. I'm like, he said, "What you doing?" "I'm working, Papa." And because that's what he's seen, and he's seen me. But that what you're doing right now is what's missing.
Yeah, I don't care.
The family first. We need to find a way to support ourselves without abandoning our family. Because what happens is, if you're not there taking care of your kids, who's feeding them their values, interests, and principles?
Well, we know now it's internet.
Yeah, that's true.
TikTok.
Oh, yeah, it's nothing like a TikTok educated child. They're going to go far. I mean, the whole point of a family is to get two like-minded people to create a marriage and come together and say, we have similar values. We have similar principles and interests. We're going to create a family where we're going to take the next generation in as a responsibility. We're going to procreate, bring them in, and teach them our values and project that out into the future for children that we won't even live to see. Our great-great-great-grandchildren are going to come up living the life we created because we came in and we inculcated these values, interests. What's the one thing that they robbed slaves of that made slaves slaves? It wasn't their geography. It wasn't their ability to move freely, the shackles. They robbed them of their values, their interests, their principles, which included their history, what they believed in. Part of that value system was family. They shut that down. Another part of their values and interests was the importance of history. That's why we had griots. They killed them. Anything that gave us a sense of self and self-empowerment, they took it and told us that anything we wanted, we had to depend on them for it.
Let's not even talk about how they would buck the males in front of the wife and children. Let's not even go like this kid like that tangent in itself.
But see, that's exactly why. There's a version of that going on now on social media, on the internet, that our children have access to. Absolutely. That is dumbing them down, that is making our young women think that their bodies is their most precious asset. That's making men think that all they got to do to be a man is bed a woman or have a big bank account, and all the other things that make us men don't matter. And all of that's being constantly pushed. I was talking about this in a video that I was shooting on the way to the office. And I talked about how we created hip hop as a response to COINTELPRO. When COINTELPRO destroyed the Black Nationalist Party and the Black Panther Party, the response was hip hop. It wasn't just music, it was a culture. It was the way we dressed, it was the way we talked. We made words, we flipped words. Bad meant good. We talked about being dope. We talked about being fly. We talked about things that only we could understand when we had conversations. So they couldn't tap us and get the knowledge we were kicking. We had Diggable Planets. We had the X Clan. We had people who were kicking knowledge. Yeah, we had people talking about, balling and all that stuff. We always had that. We had the beefs and stuff. But the predominance was, hey, this is our knowledge. This is where we come from. This is what you can do. When things started getting out of hand, what did hip hop respond with? Self-destruction. Mm-hmm. They came together unified and said, this is not how we gonna win. So what did they do? They bought the industry and they started signing the artists. And like I said, because we didn't have an alternative, we expected kids who came from poverty to turn down a $500,000 or $1 million signing bonus and say, I can't spit that because I don't believe in it. First of all, we didn't properly socialize them so that they knew who they were. Second of all, you're not going to sit up and not have an alternative for a kid that's being offered $1 million when everybody in his family their entire life probably won't make $1 million over the course of their life. And you expect them to turn it down because of some moral principle or social obligation when you have never engaged them in the first place? That's how they won. Yep. And that's what we've got to do is we've got to have young people like her that come out and say, you know what? I'm not going to acquiesce to the system. The system is not going to dictate how I live my life. I am a wife and a mother first, and I'm still going to get this paper.
Hello. Say that one time. But see, people don't even think about, too, that slavery in a way is still, slavery in a way is still going on. Like, why is it that our African-American males are at a higher rate in prisons and in jails? Let's just even think about it. Why do we have women, like, okay, for an example, you know how they say, united we conquer, divided we fall? It is nothing more powerful than a Black mother and father or wife and husband or boyfriend, girlfriend, family. And that is what, I'm not racist, y'all, but that is what, society wants to break. They want to have the woman feel as if, oh, I don't need a man. I don't know I know it was a meme or something going around a couple of years ago where the girl was telling, the wife was telling the man, I don't want you, or get out. Then the daughter was like, oh, I don't want a man. And the son was like, I don't want to be a man. Because it's like you're turning it to, like, I feel scared sometimes, even raising 2 Black boys. And I feel scared for my daughter because it's like the world is preparing for them to never have a whole home. And that's something that's super important to me. I am a firm believer of, the man is the head of the household. And that doesn't just mean financially. The man does not have to be a head of the household just financially. He could be head of the household spiritually. He could be head of the household, in knowledge. It's not all about money sometimes. But again, it goes back to what's going on right now or for years where the food stamp stuff came in. And, if you're going to be on public housing, why is it that in public housing you can't have a man in the house? Are y'all asking the right questions? Because, you're so quick to say, okay, I'm going to go get on housing, or I'm going to go get food stamps. But so who's going to help me raise these kids? Who's going to help me raise my son? Because I can tell you right now, I am not in no way, shape, or form. I am not potty training none of my sons because I don't have that. I don't know how it's supposed to work. I mean, literally. But it's like, come on now. But to touch back on your point, Dr. Michael, that you were talking about as far as education, I don't feel as if education should start as a freshman at 18 years old in college. You're giving college kids credit cards. You're giving college kids debt of for some $40,000, $50,000, $60,000. they're 18 years old. They're not making they're not making a good decision at 18 years old. And then on top of that, giving them, what is it called, Pell Grant or whatever it is. I can't remember what it's called, where you can take out a loan just to have the money to survive. And of course, they're gonna want to ball. Who wants to ball if that's all you see social media? Everybody taking trips to Dubai or going to Tulum or going here or going there. That's all you're gonna want to do. So for me, when you ask me if I would go back and get my doctorate degree, right now I'm in more of I care about my title, but what is that title going to bring me? Me being Dr. Kaylee Nelms is going to bring me what? Or a doctorate in education, what is that going to bring me if I know I'm not pivoting back into education? Because I can do the same thing that I'm doing right now, and I have a master's degree. And again, it's not saying that, you know, having a doctorate degree is like water and it's not important. But at the same time, I'm not willing to put my family in $100,000 worth of debt for a doctorate degree that I can go on YouTube, or I can go. And I told my husband this is funny thing. My husband was an NFL player as well as a professional track runner, and he had to sacrifice his engineering degree at University of Miami because it didn't work. So he ended up getting a physical. It was a physio, like where you're an athletic weight trainer. I don't remember what it's called, but now he's contemplating going back and forth, figuring out does he have an engineering degree. And I'm like, you honestly, are you going to college or going back to school because you want to just have that piece of paper? Because if that's not important to you, you can look at the curriculum, which a lot of people don't know. Look at the curriculum, see what books that they're going to be using, and read the book front to back. Buy the book. And then if you have questions, that's what you have Google for. People don't know that doctors Google almost everything. I have a best friend that's a doctor, and she still uses Google. Like, come on. You don't have to go to these institutions.
And people will probably be surprised with me saying this, but Doc, you've heard me say this more than once. I have the degrees, but my pursuit of the degrees were for a different reason. Mm-hmm. There were certain places I was going to go that I knew people wouldn't hear me if it didn't have those credentials behind the name. But the knowledge that I spit, I had years before I had the degree.
Absolutely.
I taught myself. A lot of what I learned, I came out of high school more read than the average PhD. I read the entire Encyclopedia Britannica before I was 10.
Dang.
So what I'm trying to get people to understand is, and I got 2 doctorates, a master's, and 3 bachelor degrees.
Okay.
And I don't have a dime in student loan debt. I learned how to work the system.
Right.
My doctorate degrees came from seminary, and I was recruited to do the research and do the work, and they funded it. So it was like I wasn't thinking about a doctorate. I was like, man, I don't need, number one, I don't need school because I can probably go in most of these rooms and lecture the lecturer. So I don't need it. But then they said, hey, we need you to do this. And in turn, this is what we're offering you in return. So I get to do work in the area I'm passionate in, and you guys covering it. And then I walk away with something I know I can use to open doors where people are going to look at me, the tattoos, the fact that you can't get this dude in a suit unless it's an emergency. And you mean to tell me you're going to do, all right, I'm in. And that's how the process started. And so my thing is, one of my favorite people all the time was an autodidact. And Doc, you know this, Dr. John Howard Clark. Mm-hmm. You know, my thing is, there are so many. Here's another thing people don't know. Talking about getting degrees, what you need is the expertise, because while there are certain fields that require the degree to be licensed, you can go in as a consultant and you don't have to have a license. And I'll tell you what, MIT has an unbelievably free psychology program online, 100% free, the whole freaking program. Harvard has it. I mean, some of the best colleges have free online courses from A to Z. You don't get the degree with it, but you got all the curriculum, everything you need to know. You can learn it if you are driven enough to go dig into it.
People didn't know they were giving away those free courses at I believe it was Harvard too, Harvard or
Mhm.
another
Yep.
Ivy League school during the pandemic. Not a lot of people took not a lot of people took that into consideration. Like I
Right.
was doing that. When I say I was gone, like as soon as it came out, I'm like, yo, let me get Harvard.
Right. And so that's the thing that we have to look at is we need to start thinking outside of the box. We need to start thinking laterally and moving outside of the box and looking at ways that we can strengthen ourselves, build ourselves, grow ourselves, and empower ourselves, but also set the model, set the standard for the next generation.
Right.
I think that one of the problems that we're having is we're so busy trying to look like we think they want us to look, talk how we think they want us to talk, behave how we think, that we're not serving ourselves.
Right.
And that is a problem. You got to look at what's necessary and what's needed for you, your family, your community.
Right. Right.
Absolutely. Hey, Kaylee, let's switch gears a little bit. Talk a little bit about your track career for us a little bit. Take us through that and how that started. How did you get into track and field and eventually qualify for the Olympics?
Well, so funny story. My aunt, Patricia Davis Twitty, she was a professional runner. She started off at St. Augustine College, and then she went on to training with one of the best, Coach Bev Kearney. Um, and she ultimately didn't make the Olympics. She was scared. I can't remember what Olympics it was, but she literally did not qualify because she was scared of going over there because of whatever was going on in the country. She's like, I'm not going over there. And I'm like, so you mean to tell me you missed out on this opportunity? And I love her to death, guys. Don't think I don't. But my thing is this. This goes back to what I talk about of mental entrapment. There was something that you wanted to do, but you let what was going on outside stop you from doing what you wanted to do. And again, I tell her this all the time. So if she's watching this, you know I'm talking to you. But after that, I was like, okay, well, I want to be an Olympian. I started off at William Danny Middle School, 6th grade. We had a concrete track. Talk about a black school. We didn't even have like turf or whatever it's called. No, it was concrete.
Right.
Running on what's I can't think of those little plastic things so you don't hurt yourself. And people was like, they would tell my mom, and this goes back to why I want to be how I am today. My mom had to work so much, she couldn't really come to a lot of my track meets. So people would call her, like my family members would call her while they're at my track meet. Hey, Kaylee fast. Like she fast. And mom was like, whatever. Like, no big deal, because she's working. I get it. And then I set my goal, and it's crazy because I set my goal to be an Olympian. And I told all of my coaches that I had LSU, University of Florida, USF, UCF, Kentucky, Clemson. I had many schools. I traveled the world figuring out what school I wanted to go to. And when they sat down, the first thing I said, okay, I want to be an Olympian and how we're going to get there. If you can't really give me a plan on how we're going to get there, then I'm not really for it. I went to university. I went to Florida State University. The only reason why I left, and I'm going to be completely honest with you guys, I am an open book. I left because I was in a domestic abuse relationship and with the football player. And a lot of people don't understand how much football players are sheltered or, I guess the way of protected. And because of that situation, I was the problem. Not that he's putting his hands on me. I was the problem. So I ended up switching. And then I was a little bit overweight, because I was depressed, et cetera, et cetera. And I went to University of Tennessee, Knoxville with my coach, Coach Hall. He is amazing. I love him to death. We still communicate. I actually talked to him yesterday. And he was hard as hell on me. I literally was 40 pounds overweight. I didn't make a nationals individually. I didn't even know if I still wanted to run track. And I made the Olympic team in 9 months. People don't know this. Before I went down to Jamaica for the Olympics, I went down there by myself because my coach did not think that I was going to make the team, and the rest of my teammates was at U.S. trials. Only one of them made the team. Me, and, myself, and my other teammate made the team. But a lot of people don't know 2 months before at nationals, I ran like hot garbage. I didn't even make it to finals in none of my events. So that's why he was like, okay, well, I'm just not gonna go because it's not looking like that's what we're gonna that's not where we're gonna be, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And I made the team. And one thing I could say too is people need to be careful of the things that they say. Because I always said, and I even said to my coach, Coach Ken, who was at Florida State, I was like, you know, once I make my first Olympics, I'm gonna have my daughter. I'm gonna have a child. I made my Olympics and I got pregnant. So with that being said, make sure whatever you say that you're gonna do, make sure you're prepared for it. Because I didn't think I was gonna make the Olympics at 21. I didn't. But I did, and I got pregnant at 21 too.
So you made the Olympics without having a coach. You were there by yourself, right?
My husband now went with me to when I came back and forth. Instead of me flying back to Tennessee, he actually trained me in between.
Okay.
Because me and my coach were actually at odds because I was like, you know, I believed in you. And we made a commitment, and I'm big on commitments. And it's like you kind of just because you couldn't see the vision completely through, you just kind of quit. And that's like we were at odds for almost like 6 months because I was like, you sent me down there by myself, and you knew me coming to your school. This was most important to me.
What's important here is, like I said, I see a lot of my life unfolding in different areas, is that there's simply going to be times when what you didn't understand then is that life has a way of preparing you and training you for what's to come. And what you were going through then may not have the thing that it was preparing you for may not have even come yet. But what you're going to face in life, if you're going, it's funny that I mention it now with everything this brother has been dealing with and doing over the last few weeks. But one of the most powerful quotes I've ever taken from Will Smith is that God put everything worth having on the other side of fear. And I believe it. And normally what I add is when I say he put everything worth having on the other side of pain and fear. You will not see the highest level of success without discomfort and pain. Mm-hmm. You're not going to do it without a bunch of people you thought you could depend on falling off. Mm-hmm. Now, here's the biggest thing that you got out of that, even at that moment, whether you understood it or not, is you don't need anybody else to co-sign your dream. You don't need one other person to say, I believe in you. You only have to believe in yourself. And what will happen is the moment that you apply yourself, the right person will show up at the right time to fill in for the people you thought were going to be there. And it won't look anything how you thought it would look when you set out, but you get the result. And that's the thing you have to be willing to do is I am not going to quit. People talk to me and they ask me about success all the time, and they come up with their postulations and assumptions of why I've been successful in business. How did I get to having written and published 24 books and all this stuff? Well, I've read thousands, first of all. That's how I can write. But no, actually, they ask, well, how did you do this in business? How did you do this in finance? How did you do? And at the end of the day, they're expecting me to say, well, I've got, X amount of degrees and I got, blah, blah, blah. And, I've done this and I say, no, actually, you got to realize that was a time I didn't have any of that. And I was still me. They said, well, what is it then? You're smarter than the average person. No, I'm more committed than the average person. That's what I say. If you want to know my one word of why I consistently win, and even when I lose, recover and come back better, is because I'm relentless. It doesn't require you to be the smartest person in the room to be relentless. You know, shoot, Sylvester Stallone has literally made an unbelievably financially successful career in movies about being the underdog guy who was relentless. And the truth of the matter is, there's so much truth in that. I've seen it in real life boxing. I've seen a far more skilled fighter take on a guy that's just sitting there saying, you're going to have to kill me in this ring or we going 12 rounds. And you watch the beginning of the fight, the skilled guy is just tagging him, and he's just coming. He's just coming, throwing just enough punches not to get the fight stopped. He might get knocked down a couple of times. But here's what happens. The more the skilled fighter who is used to winning and knocking people out gets, Tyson against Douglas. The deeper he got in that fight, the more distraught he became. I can't knock him out. And this guy is fighting for a whole different reason. Buster Douglas was fighting. He was in the best shape he's ever been in. Why? His mom had just died. He was dedicating that fight to his mom. All that stuff was coming. He was in there in a whole different place. Costamata had just died. Tyson is the best fighter on the planet. Everybody fears him. He went over there in Tokyo, took it easy for the first time in his life, got in thinking Douglas was going to be an easy win. He got in, and he's throwing haymakers. And Douglas just keep coming, pop, pop, and before you know it, you see that thing. But one of the things I've seen the fight, then I'm back to you, is I've seen a fight, and I can't think of who it was. Was it Mark Breland? I think it was Mark Breland in the 80s. Unbelievable welterweight. Nobody ever knew he didn't have a chin because he was just that good. So he's in the fight with this. I can't remember the other dude's name. That's how he was supposed to win this fight. He's winning. He's going. He's got dude, but he's every time he hits him, first knockdown. There's no first of all, no 3 knockdown rule. So he knocks him down. Guy gets back up. No problem. Go. I'm gonna get him again. About 7th round, if I'm not mistaken, Mark hits him and he rocks it. Kid goes down. Mark turns around, throws his hands up in the air. When Mark gets through celebrating, turns around, the kid is up taking an 8 count. All the air went out of Mark. At that moment, he had thrown his best shot, and this kid is up, and not only is he up, he's coming and he's saying, I'm fully recharged. You got some more. Mark didn't have any more. Kid knocked Mark out same round. Mark Breland's career ended. After that, he was never the same. Everybody realized he's got a chin. And so, do you remember it after a long time? And this is one of my favorite boxes ever. You remember after a long time, after that fight with Tony, when Roy Jones finally got knocked out, and people realized he could be hurt, how everything changed for him after that? Mm-hmm. The biggest part of his win was, number one, he's the fastest guy I've ever seen. But number two, people didn't know where it was coming from. They were scared to throw. Once they realized, if I could just hit him one time, he got knocked down a couple of more times. He lost some fights where he got punch shy because he didn't know where it was coming from. That's how quickly the game can change. But being relentless, my favorite movie quote, it is not the violence that sets a man apart. It's the distance he's willing to go.
You know, it's kind of crazy because I can give you a situation that happened with my job that I just started. I just started my job and I was like, I told my mom, I'm like, bro, I'm about to quit. She was like, you about to quit? I was like, yeah. I was like, I don't need, it was something that was going wrong. It was more so, I can give you an example. The tech industry is heavily populated by white men and Indians, right? And I pride myself in diversity recruiting, which diversity recruiting is when you take those that are not the norm. So outside of the white male or Indian males. And everybody that I was sending that was either a minority or outside of the bubble, the ideal software engineer, they were like, no. And I'm like, okay, I'm sending you people that is way more qualified than the person who you're saying, oh my God, yeah, Like, are you just picking him because he's white? Are you just picking him because he's Indian? And I called my mom and I told my husband, I said, listen, I'm about to quit. Because at the end of the day, you're not going to bring me into a company. I'm not going to be used as a pawn. Don't bring me into a company just to say that you have a minority of female minority on your staff. Because, baby, a lot of people don't know that these companies make money just to have an African American or any minority on their payroll. They get tax breaks. So you're not
Exactly.
going to use me. I'm going to use my platform to bring any minority up and change their life because we have so much against us. So, like I told my mom, she was like, "Girl, you crazy. You can't. You just got that job, and what you gonna do?" Etc. And I'm like, I figure it out. I went a year, 2 years without having a job, and my husband held it down just fine. And even if we got a struggle, but and she couldn't understand. And I get it because she's been working a job for 30 years. She's used to being, okay, well, I get a job. I need to get consistency. That's one thing she always say, Kaylee, you have to be consistent. Listen, I used to jump schools if something not right, if I can't be the person and I can't change the lives that I want to or how I want to, I leave because I'm not gonna be held in a box because you're not seeing outside of the box or you're not willing to see the impact that it's gonna have in 10 years or 15 years or 20 years. So, like I said, I told her I was gonna leave. And then when I had that conversation with my boss, I said, listen, these are things that I'm not really happy about. When I had my interview and when I spoke to you guys, my biggest thing was about inclusion and equality and diversion. And I'm giving you all these diverse candidates that are qualified, overly qualified, if you want me to be frank with you, overly qualified, and you're denying them because they don't have a degree. Do you have a degree? You don't. So how are you going to judge somebody else because they don't have a degree, but yet they made it in the Amazons and the Metas, which is Facebook, the Googles, which is now ma'am or something like that. They've made it. So why are you going to knock them down because they don't have a degree? I said, see, that's a problem. All these other companies are realizing that millennials or just people in general don't need a degree to do what they want to do. Why do we have all these coding boot camps out here if you're going to sit around and turn around and say, oh, well, no, you need a degree? Everybody can't afford a degree. That's where we're not being inclusive. I said, because at the end of the day, people who I went to high school with is still in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, around them same people that they went to high school with because they didn't have the opportunity to go to college like I did on a full scholarship with no money. So don't sit here and knock this person down because they don't have a degree. You don't know their life story. Give them a chance to tell you, what's going on. And at the end of the day, they don't owe you anything. You don't understand that. When you're going into an interview, it's a two-way street. The same way that they're interviewing you, you need to be interviewing them. And I let them know from the jump, family is important. So if my kid is crying or if I need to go pick up my child from school, I'm leaving. I'm going to clock in when I clock in, and I don't need to be at work for 8 hours because what am I really doing for those 8 hours? Not a goddamn thing.
And see, that's what I love about millennials, They will walk away from a job in a minute, Doc, And that's what's changing the landscape of for employers now because we have so many jobs out there that are not filled, because millennials are saying, hey, I ain't doing it no more,
Right.
You change. I'm not going to change. You change. In other words, I'm not the Generation X. I'm not the civil rights generation person, so I'm not doing it.
What I think is important in this is to highlight because we don't want tenacity to be confused with foolishness.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important to understand something here. So I want to try to frame this dynamic so we can see the importance of family and we can see the importance of how it plays out. Now, we have to be real true and honest because now I've seen people with all types of challenges in front of them be successful at changing their lives forever. Lisa Nichols is one. One of my favorites. I love her to death. Okay, but here's the situation. We got two types of millennials out there. I mentioned that earlier. We got the type that sit down. Now she says, I'm gonna put something, and this is only gonna be on here, so it's not gonna mess with your resume or your bio.
I don't care.
But I'm gonna tell you something. She says she left teaching with no plan. I disagree. Her plan's name is husband. Her husband say, baby, I got this. That gave her the freedom to not be enslaved because I'm not walking this alone. The importance of family. Now imagine a woman that's got a kid by a man that's not there. She walks away from that job. She's not only putting herself in jeopardy, totally different dynamic. You know me, Doc. I've had to fight back from losing everything and not have anything, not even a roof over my head, but I was able to do it. Why? Because by that time I had reared my kids. They were grown. I handled them. I got them up. They didn't ever have to worry about anything. Nothing ever got turned off, not even close. They lived what the average kid wouldn't. So now that I'm going through this, I could sit up and say, you know what? I'm not folding to a system. I'm going to walk my way back because it was only me. Now, for a person that's got kids, what do we do for them? How do we do this? Because her dynamic was in place because she had a strong family setting. And in her mind, it was already there. She got a man that was the person when her coach said, I'm not going with you, who went with her? This is the same dude. This dude has already showed up before. Right. So when he sit up and say, baby, you can quit your job and we'll figure it out, take your time. She looked back 6 years and said, you know what? You were the one that went with me. Nobody believed in me. My time to believe in you. I'm walking away from this crap. And she was able to do it. So there's a difference in understanding that you can't sit up. And I'm not saying stay on a job that you hate because you got a kid. I'm saying your plan of exit has to be different. Mm-hmm. Okay, you need a plan of exit. Now, there are certain things that are non-negotiable. There's just certain things you can't do. Me, I ain't thinking about no plan. You're not going to mishandle me. You're not going to disrespect me. And you're not going to force me in anything I don't want to do. If that means me walking on, do it. But I'm not going to sit up and let you break me. Because, see, that's a new form of buck breaking is I know you need this job, and I'm going to attack every ounce of your self-esteem in the process. No. And I'm going to make you nothing but a puppet because you need me. And what'll happen is what I just did is I'm giving you a paycheck, but I'm sending you home a wimp. You can't lead in your house. Mm-mm. You can't sit up and take authority and sit up and make a stand and defend your home because you're afraid of all the consequences. I've taught you to be afraid.
That's true. That's powerful. That is so powerful. And I didn't even think about that my husband was like my exit plan. Mm-hmm. Because anything I do decisions sometimes and he had to pick up the pieces. But he picks up those pieces well. I mean, he may tell me off a little bit, like you could have thought this through a little bit, but we'll figure it out. But that's true, though. But at the same time, I can tell you this. This is what vividly made me check out of teaching. My daughter had 105 fever. And I had to explain to my principal why I had to leave in the middle of the day. And he was still giving me a hard time. I'm like, so you mean to tell me my child has 105 fever at daycare and they're calling me, hey, you got to come get her. And you telling me, no, I need you here?
Now, the same principal, if there was a student in that school in the nurse's office with 105 fever, would be calling the parent, expecting that parent to take off from work. You know how I know? Because it's happened to me and my wife. Mm-hmm. My son has allergies. He goes to school with allergies, but he didn't want to go. So he decides to play the allergy game. Everybody's afraid of me. Everybody's afraid of sniffles and coughs now because of COVID. So he goes to school and does and so he goes to the office. And so now they're calling us. And not only do we have to go get him, we got to take him and get him tested. I already know what's wrong with him. He's got allergies, but he's played that card. Man, we sit up and both of us right now are with clients. Both of us have our own businesses. Mm-hmm. We're with clients. It's going to be a while. It'll probably be a couple of hours before we can get there. They called another 10 times to come get them. But that same school going to tell you can't go check on yours. Mm-hmm. But they want me to come get mine. No, see, that's that double standard. You know, we're gonna sit up and apply that pressure. They're so used to applying pressure to make you do what you want because they feel you need them. And what you have done is you've created the reality to paint in front of others who look like you that absolutely isn't the case. You can do this on your own. There's a whole market out there, and you can micro niche down to a real specific level to where you're the only person doing a certain thing in this world. Guess what? You won't have as big of a market that wants it, but you're the only person for the ones who do.
Yep.
There's a way to sit up and build this thing so you can walk out. If you have something you're good at and it solves a problem, you're a potential business owner. Now you just have to take what you have in that solution and find out how you're going to market it, who you're going to market it to. It's that simple.
That is true. I can tell you this for those who are listening. For that situation, we were actually about to go on spring break. We had like people going on spring break, and I left and I told them, you know, I'm leaving. I'm going to get my daughter. I really don't care if you got to write me up, you know, whatever. Because at the end of the day, if my child passes away, what you gonna say? Oh, I'm so sorry that happened to you. Like, no, they're not gonna do that. And I guarantee you. And I asked him this question: if this was your child, would you go get him? Oh, absolutely. So why are you giving me a hard time to leave? But either way it goes, it kind of goes all back to why I didn't have maternity leave. That happened in about March, the end of March, and like I said, we're going on spring break. Let me tell you how I drove an hour and 30 minutes. And I called all of my, this is why having a network is important, and never really burning too many bridges or burning the wrong bridges, I should say. I called up everyone in my network. Hey, listen, I need a new job and I need a new job today. And I had 5 interviews lined up, like literally in 2 to 3 days. Because not only was my work ethic speaking for me, but people who I didn't even know knew who I was like, yo, so-and-so is back on the market. You need to get her. She is a bomb teacher and she care about her kids. And I went and I interviewed, and I had, I actually got the job the same day. And funny story, I called my principal on spring break. I said, hey, I just want to let you know that I'm resigning. I have a new job in, you know, Broward County, and I'm not coming back. So he was like, no, we can't talk about it. Because remember when my child had 105 fever and you told me I couldn't go get my child? You know, my child had a flu. Well, actually, we think she didn't test positive for the flu. This was like right when COVID started, and we didn't know what COVID was technically. So we think that she actually had COVID because it went through our whole house. We were all like bad. But he was like, no, you know, it's the middle, it's testing, blah, blah, blah. I don't care about all that because you didn't care about my child.
And but you know what's interesting is that we're talking about the public school system or the educational system not being a place where you can balance family and workplace. That is so crazy.
Yeah.
You would think if any employer would be able to balance family and workplace issues, it would be education, but it's not.
Nope, it's not.
Right.
It's crazy. It's so crazy to me. So I say all that to say now, yeah, I just leave jobs and I don't have no exit plan. But then we were a little bit more strapped, and you know, my husband just wasn't able to, you know, hold the household like financially by himself at that time because we were just in a grind mode. People like to skip that step of grind mode. They see all these Instagram models having it and these guys showing money. Or they trying to be a city girl. Listen, you a city girl, or you want to be like Beyonce, but Beyonce go home to Jay-Z. Let's really talk. Let's really be honest here. Like, nobody wants to be with someone during their grind or when they're trying to make it. Oh, I want a man that pays all the bills. I can guarantee you, Les, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I've seen guys that pay all the bills, and those women are going through hell because they are just property. Like, okay, I can.
I've said that so many times. One of the problems is because we've commodified black men. When black men are able to have the bag, they see themselves as above, and they don't treat women with equality, with love and respect. they feel that somebody owes them something. But the thing is, when we talk about this whole thing, it kills me how social media have people, and because we don't understand it, it's something that you mentioned in the beginning. Okay, everybody's out there living their best life. Let social media tell it. Everybody is good, and if your man can't pay all the bills, then he's sorry, trash, blah blah blah. When only now this isn't just now this is specifically black people talking, because I don't see this in other groups. I see this specifically in black people because most white people who have the highest wealth median have 2 income households. But black men supposed to pay all the bills. I get it. We're supposed to be providers, but that's not totally what they meant. But check this out. Now, you got all these cats out there that's supposed to be doing all this, and all the women blame about they man doing all this, when only 13% of the entire population, male, female, all races, make 6 figures.
Exactly.
Where all this money coming from? And as a person who makes 6 figures, I can tell you that ain't no easy walk. 6 figures ain't jack.
It's not.
When you're trying to carry a family, when you're trying to run a business, when you're trying to do a bunch of things, it don't take but a couple of good hard knocks to knock your butt in the dirt.
Hey, Doc, so 6 figures is not even middle class anymore.
No, man. You got to look at what's going on, but the narrative will tell you that it's a whole bunch of these men out here, when the truth of the matter is that black men are in the extreme minority when it comes to 6 figures.
Yep.
We're the extreme minority when it comes to advanced degrees.
Yep.
So the idea that we're the ones out there and there's a bunch of them that can pay all the bills. Yeah. If your household income, if your household expenditures are 40,000 and under, because the median income for black men is 44,000.
I could tell you right now, our household bills alone is $6,800, and that's living like a normal life. Like when I say a normal life, like our home is less than 20%. You know how they have the little breakdown, because my husband is very into the breakdown. I spend money, and he just have to tell me, baby, you got to stop. You got to stop. Can't Amazon no more. You can't H&M no more. But like, we're doing regular things. We're not taking vacations. This is one thing that I don't understand. How are these people that I personally know, and I know you ain't balling like that. So how you going to Tulum? How you going over there to Dubai? What are you doing? Because I know I'm putting in work, and we on the same salary. And I don't judge. I'm not judging, or I'm not hating, but it's like, I know, I don't believe you need to flaunt and live with the Joneses or be like the Joneses when you coming home and it's like, bro, I don't have anything. I'm eating ramen noodles for the next 2-3 weeks. Like, come on.
Well, that's called the inability to prioritize. You're going to have a lot of people in life. That's why, believe in it or not, but that's why the Bible says the poor will be with us always. Not because people are born with the destiny of being poor, but they're just going to be people who make poor decisions. The prioritization of how you spend your money. See, the thing is, it's not the amount of money. Whenever I'm teaching finance, I give Theodore Johnson as my case study. Theodore Johnson, early 1900s, was a white guy who knew a couple of wealthy people and told him he wanted to be wealthy. At the time, he was working at UPS making $14,000 a year, which at that time wasn't bad, but you weren't going to get rich doing it.
Right.
And one of his friends says, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to take at least 20% of your income, and you're going to have to invest it. You're going to have to invest it in something that produces compound interest, something that will actually grow while it's sitting there. And he says, man, I make $14,000 a year. I can't afford to give 20% of my income to something right now. I need all my money. He said, you can't afford not to. And he says, no. He says, let me tell you something. If the government came to you right now and said, we're increasing your taxes to 20%, you would throw a hissy fit, get mad, bitch, complain and everything, but you would pay it. Why not tax yourself so that your life will change? This man retired from UPS. He never changed his lifestyle. He kept working at UPS. But when he retired, he was worth $72 million on a $14,000 a year salary. another man, a black man, who happened to be a parking lot attendant in the financial district. And he would stop those guys coming out of those brokerage firms and ask for investment information. He made $12 an hour at his height as a parking lot attendant. He retired worth over $1 million. Why? Because he simply prioritized. It's not how much you get, it's what you do with it. And that's the thing, the priority. So if you're taking trips to Dubai on a $60,000 salary, it's going to catch up with you. If you set it up and you blowing it up online, buying stuff, it's going to catch up with you. You need to have more money being invested of your discretionary income and being invested in your future financial growth than you do in your current enjoyment and entertainment. But we don't get that. See, the thing that you want to do is have a progressive time of what you're able to enjoy in life. By the time you're 50, you should be enjoying 45% of your time in things that don't require you to be there. By the time you're 55 and 60, you shouldn't have to be anywhere. Your money should be providing your lifestyle. Instead of sitting up talking about a pension or a 401k, you should be investing in something that produces a return at the level of the lifestyle you live. By the time you get to a retirement age, I'm never retiring. As long as I can breathe, I'm working because that's my passion. That's what keeps me alive. I'm not going to sit around and check out at 65. Hell, I'm going to be just getting started. But what I'm going to tell you is I don't want to have to work.
Right. I don't have to show up if I don't need to. Yeah,
I want to be able to go, hey, you know what, baby, let's go fly here. Baby, let's go. But it's going to be determined about how I spend today.
Yeah.
About how I work today, how I build today. The goal has to be that. And so, you're looking at it and you're talking about, all these people that are doing all these things. You're going, how are they doing it? Well, there's a whole nother level of them that are on housing. Well, yeah, you can have these big parties and gumbo cook-offs and travel when your rent is $35, when your rent is $120. Yeah, you can do that. And what you don't realize is eventually they're going to find out you got that job you're getting paid under the table for. Mm-hmm. And you're going to owe them people their money.
Let's not even talk about something that I found so interesting. I don't know if you guys kind of keep up a little bit with, there was a couple in California and they spent $500 on their wedding. Did you see it? And everybody was slamming them. And I'm like, bro, do y'all realize there's shows out here that's either wedding or a house? And people are so dumb enough to be like, oh, well, freaking, I'm going to spend $70,000, $80,000 into a wedding one day. People don't understand that people go to their wedding just to talk mess. Period. Like you paying for other people's entertainment. I can tell you this. Before I thought that I wanted this fairy tale wedding, and me and my husband talked about it, and we just couldn't afford it. We wanted to get married, and was like, you know what, we'll just go to the courthouse. I was like, we'll just go to the courthouse. I got a dress. Me and my mom got a dress. We did everything. So I did everything that I wanted to do. Turn around, my husband ended up surprising me with a beach wedding. He had everybody that was important to me there, and he surprised me, but he still did not break the bank.
Right.
So it's when I tell people that story, I said I couldn't imagine having my dream wedding because I would not be happy. I was sitting there, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Here's a true story. And Doc, I don't drop numbers. That's just not what I do. I'll talk about what, like not money numbers. I'll talk how many books I've written. I'll talk about how many businesses I run, but I don't drop numbers. But what I will tell you is this is my third marriage. My second marriage was her first time being married. It was my second time. So, it was, hey, I done already learned. Don't put a whole lot of stock in the wedding. Right. I'm more worried about the marriage. But it was her first time, so she wanted to go all out. 12 bridegrooms, which means I had to come up with 12, 2 maids of honor, a matron of honor, 2 best men. And you can kind of put your mind and figure out how the numbers rack up.
Do she even like these people? Do you like
not that part of it. Very well loved, very well liked. Comes from a small town with a bunch of people, and her family is loved, and everybody wanted to be in the wedding. So, but I said didn't say that, and I don't speak ill of my exes, and ever, and so I'll just say it ended, but it ended while we were still paying for it.
Mm.
We were divorced before we paid for the wedding.
Wow.
See?
And so it taught me something. I want you to have your experience. I want people who really want to celebrate us to see it. But at the end of the day, all of these people at this wedding, how many, this is the question I have. Out of all the people that are invited to this wedding, how many are we going to be able to call when shit get hectic, when it gets hectic? When the bills are due and I'm sick and I can't work. How many of them are we gonna call, and they gonna come through for us? Well, if the answer is one or two, them the two I want there.
Hello, say that again.
And the rest of them I really don't care about. I'm not here to entertain you. I'm feeding you to celebrate me. What kind of sense does that make?
None.
I'm paying for you to come celebrate something that's important to me. So my whole thing is, I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. When I heard she spent $47 on her dress.
Yes, from Shein.
And I'm going, I wonder how many women would sit up and think that would be okay. And the answer is very few, because it's about saying, look at what we're doing. And that's not where the battle is going to be won. The battle is going to be won in the trenches after the wedding is over, and you're trying to learn each other. You're trying to build together. You're trying to merge two identities, two philosophies, and make things happen. And everything is happening around you at warp speed, and it's not going the way you thought it was going to go, because now the honeymoon is over. Mm-hmm. Now the reality of life is setting in, and it's not easy. It's what are you committed to? What are you willing to do? This is where the investment starts. This is where you put everything you've got into it, because you're going to need it, because you live in a culture that throws marriages away like nothing.
Mm. Or they have those girls that be on Instagram going in your husband's DMs all the time. Right. People let's honestly call a spade. Like, it's not what it used to be. And I'm 27 years old, but I feel as if I've been here before. If how some people say they've been here before.
Yeah, I think you have.
Like, to be completely honest with you, like, yeah, you had those families back in the day where the men had two different families, like one on this side of town and one, whatever. But that woman over there would not come down this street to let her know what's going on over here, versus social media. Men wake up every day and scroll on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and it's Pornhub. Like, come on. Like, you don't even have to be, it's so much challenges now. And it's like, for me to really put $40,000, $50,000 into a wedding, not to say that you don't know if it's going to work out, but you have to be prepared for it not to work out. And you spent $50,000. What do you have to show for it? What do you honestly have to show for it? People don't. You got
pictures. But then the thing is, after it's over, nobody wants to look at them.
Exactly.
Nobody wants to look at them pictures. So I mean, you make such a valid point, and that's the challenge we're facing as a collective, not just in marriage, but in general. But when you've got so many things that wasn't there a generation ago to interfere with progression, the marriage is bombarded with males and females who don't respect marriage, trying to get at your partner on a regular basis. They don't care that they're married. They don't care that you have a family, that you're fighting, you're trying to make things work in your family. They're there to pounce and seize on any opportunity. They're just hoping that the one day that they drop in that DM is the day that you had an argument with your mate.
Or they see how you treat, and they see how he treats you. I can give you an example. I had, I didn't know there's a such thing called a push gift. And I told, it was crazy. It was when the kid tell you, right, I just dropped. And I told my husband, I said, babe, I really want this car. He was like, girl, I'm not buying you no doggone car. I already bought you a car. You ain't like the car I bought you. I talked junk forever, and I kept doing it. I kept doing it, and it was crazy. Once I posted that picture that he brought me that car as a push gift, you'll be amazed at how many people went in his DM and came into my DMs about it, like just trying to throw themselves. And I'm like, bro, you don't even know what we went through or what sacrifices we took to even get this car. Like, and it's just a car. Like, I'm not the type of person that's just like, oh my God, I need a Mercedes or I need this or a Bentley or whatever. I don't care. As long as they get me from point A to B, I don't give a god doggone. Because I get in accidents like it ain't nobody business. I'm just going to be honest. Like, I don't know how to drive. I don't know how I got my license, but.
Man, don't get me started on that. Don't get me started on that, man. Because I'm down here in Texas, and I'm just gonna say there are a lot of little short ass women in big ass SUVs.
Hey, I'm in a Suburban. Don't do that.
Uh-oh.
Don't do that.
Short, and I mean, can't see over the steering wheel, bumping and running, and they just taking over. And so it's like, man, I think there needs to be a height standard to drive an SUV, a full size, because I mean, like, it's crazy. But I digress. Don't
do us like that, okay?
Hey, I'm just saying.
We are not the van, like this generation. We are not the van people. We're gonna be in a Suburban, or we're gonna be in some type of SUV, even if we don't know how to drive it. Because I can tell you, I can't park for nothing. Like I can't park.
No minivan, right?
Nah, we ain't no minivan. We ain't no minivan at
No,
all.
this the SUV. This the SUV generation.
Yep. That's crazy though, but I like that though. I can give you, let's even talk about a Tesla. People want to talk right now, oh, I'm gonna go get a Tesla. Honestly, people don't understand how affordable Teslas are. They're actually really affordable. But it's something, again, it goes back to mental entrapment, because we see nothing but what people in Teslas all the time? White people. So it's like, oh man, we can't afford that. People don't know an average Tesla is like $40,000 base. And they don't understand how many returns you can get on there. I watched one time, again, on YouTube, I'm an advocate on using your platforms for education and not just for casual browsing, because people don't understand what you expose yourself to is what you're actually going to start doing. So I watched, it was like a millennial, it's called like Millennial Money on YouTube. You can look it up. It's really good. It goes through different salaries of millennials and how they spend their money. There was this one guy, he was making six figures. I think it was like 200 and something. And he brought a Tesla. But the reason why he brought a Tesla was for the tax write-offs. A lot of people don't know, if you could buy a car through your business, you can actually, I think it's like you depreciate the value and you get it back on your taxes or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
He actually did that, making the Tesla pretty much free for him. So I just say all that to say, whatever you're wanting to do, whatever you're thinking about, put it down, write it down, and figure out how you're going to get there. But don't tell yourself you can't do it. If you're going to tell yourself you're going to be a millionaire, make a plan to be that millionaire. Because a lot of people don't understand that. They see $1 million in their lifetime, but they just spent it all.
And you make a very valid point. And I remember my 11th grade English teacher who knew me from 9th grade. She came in and sat in for my 9th grade English teacher while they had a meeting. And she heard me talking, and she pulled me outside because it was something about my conversation that kind of wowed her for a 15-year-old. Mm-hmm. And so she talked to me. And so she kind of took me on her wing long before I entered into her classroom. So she would catch me out, and she would watch me. She would tell me stuff like, I saw you walking with so and so, and so I don't want to see you with him anymore. Association brings about assimilation. Mm-hmm. What she was saying is, you hang around him long enough, you're gonna start to do and act like him. I don't want to see that. Mm-hmm. But one thing one conversation she had with me in the hallway one day is, she said, "Come here. I see you moving, but every movement has a consequence. Mm-hmm. Understand that the only person in this life who can stop you is you. Let me tell you something, son." She says, "The word can't will never apply to you. Don't ever let anyone use it when addressing you or what you believe you can do." And that's something I took with me. It doesn't mean life was always easy. It doesn't mean that things came to me easy. It just meant that I never looked at something and said I couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing we got to do. We got to take can't out of the vocabulary of our children.
Yep.
We got to take the ceiling off of what they think they can believe. We need to stop them from seeking the approbation and approval of other people. We need to teach them to look inside of themselves and determine what's important and what they're passionate about. Look at your skill set. Look at your gifting. Doc, you've heard me say this a million times. I've had the pleasure and the joy and the honor of working with kids with autism, Down syndrome, other learning disorders, extreme poverty, extreme wealth. The spectrum. I've yet to find one person in all the people I've encountered in my life that didn't have a gift. The problem is we live in a world that doesn't search for your gift.
Right.
We live in a world that isn't looking to work with your gift unless your gift benefits them directly.
Yep.
So it's going to be up to us to cultivate the gifts of these young people and challenge them to use the gift. The Bible, what does it say? That your gift will make room for you and it will bring you before great men.
Mm-hmm.
You've already seen a part of that in your life, Kaylee, with your physical gifts. You entered a stage that very few people get to enter, to say that I was an Olympian. And just putting that on a resume, I mean, will get the attention of people who don't even know what event you ran, don't know jack about track, but will sit up and say, you were an Olympian? Wow. And there you go. And that's a conversation piece that gets you in the door. And now you're seen differently. Your gift has a way of opening doors that other people are bashing their brains to get through. But we need to be able to teach our kids to recognize our gift. We're too busy trying to get them to act like each other. Everybody's supposed to be the same. No, you're not the same. You're never going to experience your value trying to be like everybody else. Your value is in your uniqueness.
Absolutely.
That's true. I do want to address a comment that I see in the comments where it says, get yourself a business. This is a long time when I was saying, being a millionaire, if you wanted to be a millionaire. One thing, and I love your comment that you said, but I'm gonna challenge your comment. And the reason why I say I'm gonna challenge your comment is because not everybody is a leader. Not everybody is a leader. We have to get out of that mindset. Okay, get yourself a business, but if you don't have leadership principles, you're going to be destructive. You're not going to get anywhere. So I say all that to say, some people can still be wealthy or still be millionaires working a 9-to-5 because they just need that direction or they need help with that. But they get direction from, say, accountants or investors or different things like that. I kind of want us to shy away a little bit from, get a business, that's your end all be all, because not everybody has that same passion. Not everybody has that same drive. A lot of people aren't willing to work 24 hours, 7 days a week when they have a business. So that was just my only 2 cents on that comment, and I kind of want us to stop. It goes back to social media. Everybody got a business on social media now, but how many of them are actually really making money? Like, don't look down on somebody if they don't have a business and feel as if, oh, well, they're not going to make it or they're not going to be where they want to be because they don't have a business.
I think that works in a couple of ways, and just speaking from experience. Number one is, no matter where you get, if you're talking about excelling at something, to me, when you talk about being a millionaire, you're talking about a net worth of $1 million, not necessarily $1 million in cash.
Right.
If you're talking about being a millionaire, if you're talking about fluid finances in $1 million, it all boils down to this: discipline.
True.
So to me, I've seen some great business owners that are not focused, but have a sense of focus of what they want. But what they have to do is understand that I'm not an organized person. I'm not a focus. I'm not a great leader. So what do I need? I need to be able to sell my idea to somebody that is.
Boom.
Okay, so while I may not be the CEO of my company, I'm the person who came up with the idea. And I'm going to live off that idea for the rest of my life because it was just that genius. And so there are a bunch of different ways to approach it. But at the end of the day, you have to have a vision. You have to be committed to it. And again, when you're talking about small business, you're talking about working harder on your business than you ever will work for someone else. First and foremost, that's the reality of it, because nobody's going to show up. You can't call in because it's you. You don't show up, the work doesn't get done.
Right.
Okay. Then you build and you ultimately bring other people in. And that's how also, that's another way that millionaires are created. Be very good at what you do and let someone who is starting a business and having a great idea need you, and be willing to split a good portion of the income that's going to come in from it, and say forever. One thing my business mentor taught me 30 years ago, he asked me a real simple question. He says, what's the most, 100% of 100,000 or 10% of 10 million? I said, that's easy. 10% of 10 million is 10 times more than 100% of 100,000. He says, if you're going to do everything yourself, you're going to max out at 100,000. Just a number. Doesn't mean that's the actual number, but I'm giving you a principle. At 100, if you're going to try to do everything yourself, you Mr. I got to do it myself, you're going to max out at 100,000. But if you can find people who are good at the things you're not good at and give them as much as you're making or more, you're going to find out that you're going to be able to take 10% of what can be created and be richer than you were if you did it all, and then be free to sit up and do it again on another idea.
Yep. It gives you
So there's so many different ways to get to a place than sitting up and thinking, I'm going to go out here and grind it out, if that's not who you are. Because what you're going to do is you're going to meet a bunch of different challenges that's going to shut you down. You have to know your why, and you got to understand. The question I asked this morning is, what are you willing to do? What are you willing to do to have the things you say you want? If you're not willing to go the distance, don't even start it. Because I guarantee you, whatever you're thinking, if I run into this, man, I'm not going any further, you're going to run into it. Mm-hmm. Whatever will shut you down, you will find. And so you got to be willing to say, there's absolutely nothing that's going to stop me. And that's my thing. People, I said all the time, look, when I make up in my mind that I'm going to get something, it's only two options after that point. I'm either going to get it or I'm going to die trying.
Yep.
Period. There are no other options. I'm not going to cop out on it. I'm not going to, it's whatever. The only way that I start something and don't finish it is if I start it with a business partner who quits. Mm. Or if I started with someone and they bomb. But if I'm unilaterally committing to something, I'm riding it. I don't care how many bumps and bruises I got to take. You're going to have to kill me because I'm not quitting.
Yeah. That's crazy you say that, because it goes back to that Olympic year. From January to about March-ish, April, I didn't even run because I had a stress fracture. I didn't even run. And people be like, how did you do that? Because at the end of the day, I had that vision. It was 2016. I know it was Olympic year, and I had every choice. I had no other option but to make it. So you really you speak a lot of volumes as far as like the willpower of wanting to set your mind of doing something and actually doing it. And what I do challenge people to, a lot of people don't like this when I say this, but I challenge us to put our kids in private school. The reason why I say put your kid in private school, get us out of the public sector, because it's just a funnel. They're just, you're giving them your child and they're not really giving you anything in return, because you're teaching your child outside of school, even though that I am a strong advocate. Teach your child outside of school as well. But the reason why I say put your child in private school is because you have a little bit more control, because you're paying them. It's not the same as, you're just sending your child to school for free. And this is just something that I found. And if anybody in the comments or if you guys disagree, let me know. But when it comes down to like certain things, like they're not so quick to put your child on an IEP, because they know they're going to have to show proof, true proof, not just some, this and that. No, I want proof of why my child needs to go on an IEP. My child is not learning. Now I'm holding you truly, truly, truly accountable, because I'm spending, if it's on the low end of $5,000 a year or on the high end of $40,000 a year, I'm paying you money for my child to go to school. Why is this and this and this lacking? There should be no excuse. And you can actually for people of color, I feel as if you can really challenge that and get a little bit more out of education, because let's face it, education is not what it used to be, and it was even bad then. So for me, finding a way to kind of have a little bit more control without going the complete homeschool route, because a lot of homeschool children don't have the social aspects needed for the world. I personally feel I feel like that's a way that we can kind of gain a little bit more control and, you know, set our expectations, and our expectations are actually met, if that makes sense.
Right. Hey guys, I hate to do this. I just got a tag. I forgot. We've gone way over, and my client is sitting on a Zoom in another room.
All right. Well, hey, let's close out. Kaylee, how can people contact you if they need your services in terms of them being in the IT job hunting situation, or if they just need your consultation
Sure.
for how to do what you've done? How can they get in contact with you? You can also send me an email, and I'll get it to Dr. Wallace as well.
Okay. Well, they could just email me at this time at Kaylee, Kali, Nicole, Nicole, Nelms, Nelms @gmail.com. And I'll say it again, Kaylee, Kali, Nicole, Nicole, Nelms, Nelms @gmail.com. One last piece of advice: if you have a Gmail or if you have an email address that has numbers in it or funky email, please change it if you're gonna put that on your resume, because you will automatically get X'd out.
Good advice.
Sounds like a plan.
Doc, you want to close us out?
Oh man, everybody, I want to thank everybody for weighing in. Thank you, Kaylee, for being so awesome. And hey, little man, you were awesome. You held it down. You the champ today. And finally, don't forget to support the work we're doing at the Odyssey Project, especially with Black Man Lead Rite of Passage Initiative. It's so important for us to properly socialize young Black boys. The link to support the work we're doing is in the description box. Go in there, show some love. Let's keep this going. It has been an awesome week. We'll see you again on next week. And on that note, we're out of here.